Exposed. 7 spine-chilling national park secrets that reveal haunted and cursed terrains. The townsfolk of Cedar Hollow whispered stories of Whispering Pines National Park so chilling they sent shivers down the spine. Tales of ghostly apparitions roaming the twisted trees and missing hikers swallowed by the unyielding darkness fueled nightmares for many. The air crackled with unspoken horrors, a prelude to terror where lost souls wandered, forever trapped in the dank shadows. Sarah had always dismissed the rumors, focusing instead on her daughter, Lily, a spirited girl with an insatiable curiosity and an unyielding thirst for adventure. But this Friday night, this would be the night that tested all her beliefs. With the sun sinking low, Sarah pulled on her uniform, gearing up for another long shift at the diner. "Stay indoors, Lily," she called, her voice a thread of concern woven into her instructions. Lily nodded, but an idea brewed in her mind, spurred by her friends' excited whispers at school. They talked about a ghost that guarded a forgotten burial site adventure just waiting to be seized. Ignoring the tension that rippled through her insides, Lily gathered her friends, and with the thrill of rebellion pulsing through them, they ventured into the park's dark embrace. Tea first. Everything felt alive. Moonlight danced across the ground. Laughter echoed, and shadows became playful partners. They skipped over roots and leaped past gnarled branches. But as they layered deeper into the heart of the woods, that comforting atmosphere vanished, replaced by a bone-chilling silence that pressed inwards. Shadows flicked and writhed unnaturally, as if alive. The laughter died. Where there had been joy was now a weight, and the thrill turned to dread. And then they found it, the remnants of abandoned camps, scattered belongings whispering secrets of lives long gone. Shadows crept around them. The dark was watching. Meanwhile, the weight of an uneasy night settled on Sarah. A buzz startled her from her shift. Lily's frantic voice shattered the silence. "Mom, we're lost. Something's out here." Panic clawed at Sarah's mind as she fought the rising tide of fear. "Stay put. Don't move," she urged, grabbing her keys and bolting into the night, heart hammering in her chest. As she stepped into the unknown, the park's familiar paths morphed into a menacing labyrinth. Trees closed in as she ventured deeper, calling for her daughter, her voice swallowed whole by the oppressive night. Every snapping twig and rustling leaf sent spikes of dread racing up her spine. It was almost as if the forest itself breathed around her, alive with hidden dangers. And then she saw it, a flicker of movement, something darting just out of sight. A cold sweat soaked her palms. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the urgency of a racing heartbeat, Sarah forged on. Each step uncovered remnants of grotesque pasts, faded photographs of smiling hikers, their joy twisted by fate. The chilling realization dawned on her. This park held no ordinary spirits. The dark history of Whispering Pines seeped into the air like a poison. The real danger lurked deeper, amid dark corners waiting to snatch even the most innocent souls. Just as despair tightened its grip, a haunting whisper wrapped around her, as if the very woods were pleading for release. The weight of silence became unbearable, and an icy grip of fear solidified in her gut. She needed to find Lily before the true horror of Whispering Pines unveiled its monstrous face. But as Sarah pressed forward, she couldn't shake the feeling that something ancient stirred, awakened by their intrusion, and they were not alone. The shadows loomed larger, and the cold wrapped around Sarah like a noose. "Lily," she gasped, the name escaping her lips like a desperate prayer, echoing into the darkness. Each syllable seemed swallowed by the oppressive night, leaving only silence to answer her. With every frantic step, the forest closed in around her, twisting branches clawing at her clothes as if trying to drag her back. Fear surged with every quickened heartbeat. The wind whispered secrets she didn't want to know, a sinister chorus of regrets and horrors echoing through the pines. Then, all at once, a sound shattered the silence, a high-pitched scream. It pierced through night like a knife, sending chills racing down Sarah's spine. It was unmistakably Lily. "Mom!" The voice was distant, frantic, but filled with a hint of something else. Not just fear, but a chilling exhilaration. Had they found something they shouldn't have? Taking off toward the sound, Sarah stumbled through the underbrush, her heart thrumming in her ears. The branches snagged at her hair and clothes, pulling her back, urging her not to go deeper. But she couldn't stop, couldn't leave her daughter to whatever lurked in the shadows. "I'm coming, Lily!" The scream echoed again, this time mingled with laughter. Sickening, twisted laughter that didn't belong to her daughter, but felt so wrong. Panic clutched at Sarah's gut. Swallowing hard, she fought to breathe, to stay grounded despite the rising tide of dread threatening to engulf her as she stumbled into a small clearing. A single flickering lantern cast an unsteady light over an unmarked grave. The earth was freshly disturbed, damp soil sparkling like dark jewels under the moonlight. There, silhouetted against the ghastly glow, stood Lily and her friends, eyes wide and unblinking, fixated on something unseen. "Lily!" Sarah cried, her heart racing faster as she stepped closer. But as she neared, the children turned their heads in unison, and the blankness in their eyes chilled her to the bone. They wore false smiles, grinning ugly shapes too wide for their faces. "Mommy, it's beautiful!" One of them squealed, gesturing toward the grave. A sickening dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. In the flickering light, she caught a glimpse of their faces. They weren't her daughter's friends. They were twisted reflections of children long gone, eyes hollow and staring. "Get away from there!" she shouted, her voice cracking but fierce. Suddenly, the laughter turned into a cacophony of screams, a chorus that echoed off the trees and twisted into an unearthly sound. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble, as if the earth itself were awakening, angered by the intrusion into its ancient sorrows. But then, amidst the chaos, a small hand reached out. "Mom! Help!" It was Lily's voice, desperate and real, breaking through the deceptive laughter. Sarah lunged forward, grabbing Lily's arm, ready to pull her away from the horror. But the ground shook violently, pushing her back. The whispers returned now, louder, more frantic. "Stay, stay forever," they hissed. The very trees seemed to lean in closer, pressing against her, as if trying to convince her to join their ghastly feast on lost souls. "Hold on, Lily. Don't let go," Sarah cried, her grip tightening as she braced against the ground, threatening to swallow them whole. Just as she thought she could pull her daughter free, a powerful force twisted away and pulled Lily just beyond her reach, into the dark. "Mom!" Lily screamed, her voice fading as a wild wind swept through the clearing, enveloping them both. "No!" Sarah shrieked, her heart racing as the powerful grip of the forest clutched her, desperate to keep her here. In a blind panic, she lunged into the swirling darkness, ready to fight whatever had laid claim to her little girl. And then silence fell. The echo of her daughter's cries vanished, replaced by the oppressive hush of the woods. It was deafening. The lantern flickered out, plunging everything into darkness. Sarah's heart pounded as she stood alone in the vast emptiness. The silence felt alive, invading her. Thoughts, and all she could think about was that she was still not alone. Something was watching. Now the question clawed at her mind. In this cursed land of lost souls, how far would she go to bring Lily back? Sarah stood frozen, her breath hitching in her throat. The silence pressed in on her, heavy as a shroud, thick and suffocating. The forest loomed, whispering secrets she dared not contemplate. Each creak of a branch sounded like a warning. Every rustle in the underbrush sent a jolt of fear through her veins. It felt as if countless eyes were trained on her, ready to pounce. "Lily!" she called again, her voice trembling as it fought against the overwhelming quiet. "Where are you?" Nothing. Only an eerie stillness wrapped around her, acting like a badge to the terror that lurked within the night. The air felt charged, thick with a sense of foreboding that seeped into her bones. She took cautious steps forward, blindly reaching out to the darkness surrounding her. With every step, memories rushed back, echoes of laughter, the warmth of her daughter's hand in hers, innocent dreams woven into a fabric of safety. But that warmth had frozen, replaced by the specter of nightmares. "Mommy! Help!" The sound jolted her from her thoughts. The urgency was unmistakable. It clawed at her heart, igniting a feral need to find her daughter. She sprinted through the blackness, the underbrush snapping beneath her feet, breaths coming in uneven gasps. Lily! The name felt like a desperate incantation now, a chant to ward off the dark. As her vision adjusted, the shapes in the shadows began to shift. Flickering memories morphed into something grotesque. Could those be the faces of the lost children? She squinted, heart pounding. No, they were just figments, monsters of her imagination, or were they? Then she saw it, the flicker of a lantern weaving through the trees, an almost hypnotic glow teetering on the edge of her vision. It felt strangely beckoning, drawing her toward something dreadful yet compelling. Clenching her jaw, she pressed on. Reaching the light, she found the same unmarked grave, the soil restlessly shifting beneath her feet. But now, at the edge of the clearing, something shifted again, and she caught a glimpse of a dark figure standing just beyond the veil of trees. A silhouette, impossibly tall, swaying as if dancing to a tune only it could hear. It turned its head, and the features were hazy like smoke, yet it felt unmistakably alive. "Lily!" A single voice echoed back, louder, panicked, yet ghostly and indistinct. "Mom! Where are you?" The words clawed and twisted in the night, slicing through her. Was it really her daughter, or a trick of the malign forces lurking in the dark? Desperation surged as she stumbled back. No, not again. Suddenly, the chilling laughter erupted again, ricocheting off the trees, a chorus of desolation inviting her into the depths. Panic swallowed her, drowning her reason. She couldn't let herself slip away, couldn't allow this malevolent thing to claim her sanity. She needed Lily. Collecting her breath, she yelled, "I'm here. I won't leave without you." But the laughter grew louder, enveloping her like a thick fog. It was mocking, terrible, as if the shadows were sharing an inside joke too cruel to fathom. And then, silence fell again, heavier this time, pressing down until it suffocated her. Every instinct screamed at Sarah to run, but she hesitated, glaring into the darkness and searching for movement. Wouldn't it be easier to simply turn away, to escape the grasp of the cursed lands? But at what cost? As she stood paralyzed by fear, the earth shifted beneath her, a deep rumble that felt more like a heartbeat than a quake. Then she heard it, a whisper, cold as ice, slinking through the air. "Stay with us forever, join us." The words were a luring sigh wrapping around her, each syllable coercing her deeper into the chilling embrace of the unknown. Something was coming. It was rising from the bones of the earth, hungry, restless, awaiting the offering of a soul. Where was Lily? In a moment of revelation, she understood. The forest didn't want Sarah. It wanted what she loved most. With renewed fury, she shouted, "I will find you, Lily. I will fight." But something deep inside whispered the truth. How much would she sacrifice? The shadows began to stretch, dark tendrils reaching for her. A piercing cry echoed from somewhere far away, sounding almost like Lily but laced with something ominously joyful. The chilling question lingered in the air. Would Sarah's fight be enough to save her daughter, or would the darkness finally claim them both? Sarah's heart raced, pounding in her ears like a war drum. Each whispering tendril of shadow grasping at her limbs felt like fingers trying to drag her into oblivion. The air grew thick and suffocating. She could hardly breathe, yet an inexplicable drive propelled her forward. "Lily!" She screamed once more, her voice echoing pitifully in the dead air. The forest responded with a sinister rustle, as if laughing at her desperation. She stumbled towards the dark figure, squinting against the thick shadows. It lingered at the tree line, flickering in and out like a bad dream. Was it just her imagination? Or was it indeed something more sinister? Then a sudden crash shattered the stillness, a branch snapping, heavy and unnatural. Panic surged through her, fueling her feet to run. "Mom!" The voice, higher and more frightened now, broke through the chaotic sound of her own heart. She lunged forward, propelled by hope and sheer terror. But as she ran, the ground beneath her feet seemed to shift. Roots coiled like serpents, attempting to trip her. Each step felt like a battle against the very earth that had nurtured her and Lily when they had come here for memories of sunlit afternoons. "Lily!" She wheeled around in a circle, her eyes darting wildly. Every shadow felt like a potential threat, the laugh of the forest echoing in her mind. "Keep going," she muttered under her breath, fighting against the urge to break down. "You're closer. You have to be." But in the next instant, the mocking laughter returned, loud and clear. Each cackle felt intimate, as if it knew her, understood her fears, and became a warped reflection of them. Then she felt a sudden change in the air, like the silence before a storm. The laughter faded, swallowed by an all-consuming darkness. She squinted into the void, trying to discern any shape. And then she saw a flicker of movement. It wasn't just the shadows. No. Figures emerged, ghostly and ethereal, flitting between the trees. Their hollow eyes glinted with hunger, and she recognized them, children lost, just like Lily. They danced beneath the moonlight, glowing pale, every twirl and twist a mockery of innocence. "Come play with us," one of them called out, voice high with glee, tainted with sadness. Sarah's stomach twisted. "Join us forever. Get away from her," Sarah shouted, fury igniting within her. She surged forward, heart pounding through her chest, trying to drown out their enchanting calls. But the more she ran, the more the forest seemed to conspire against her. Branches reached out, scratching at her face, pulling at her clothes. "Lily!" The cry rent the night air again, desperate and primal. It felt like the last tether of hope slipping through her fingers. She had to fight through, had to push past the children's whispers. What if Lily was among them? The thought pierced her heart like a dagger. Was she lost forever, her essence entwined with the cursed magic of the woods? The laughter morphed, and in its depths, something darker emerged. A slow, deep rumble like thunder rolled through the ground. The figures froze, the forest shuddered, and the wind carried a scent that turned Sarah's stomach a rotting sweet decay. "Stay with us," voices woven into the breeze. "We need you. You belong here. It's safe." "No," Sarah screamed, lunging forward. She could feel the dread rising like bile in her throat. She wouldn't let the dark claim her. Not tonight. Not when she had Lily to save. But as she charged ahead, the ground trembled again, more violently this time, and a huge fissure opened beneath her feet. She barely managed to halt herself from tumbling into the abyss. The shadows swirled, and from the depths, she heard Lily's voice once more. "Mom, help me." It was as real as the heartbeat she felt pounding in her chest. Something cold wrapped around her ankle. Panic surged through her. She glanced down to see a gnarled root coiling like a snake, pulling her closer to the darkness that writhed below. No more insidious offers. No more lies and false comforts. This was it. She had to choose. Would she fight to save Lily and risk being lost to the darkness, or would she flee, leaving her to the sinister forest? As she wrestled with the grip around her ankle, she could feel her choice weighing heavy on her soul. But the most terrifying realization struck her. The forest had never wanted her. It had wanted Lily all along, and she was just as much of a pawn in its twisted game. The fissure expanded wider, more urgent, the shadows crawling closer. "Mom!" Lily's cry echoed, mingled with laughter that rang in the air like a death knell. And just then, the darkness began to glow. What would be revealed within that light? Would it lead to salvation, or was it a door to something worse than she could ever imagine? The light flickered, a sickly hue that pulsed like a heartbeat, and Sarah felt the roots tighten around her ankle. Fear clawed at her throat. With every desperate effort to pry them away, they only gripped harder, a vice of relentless force. "Lily!" she cried, the name escaping her lips like a prayer. There was no response, only silence, thick and heavy, as if the forest were holding its breath. She could feel the ground vibrating under her feet, a deep rumble growing louder, like a warning of impending doom. The glowing shadows twisted and morphed, becoming forms that were eerily familiar yet grotesque. They were children, yes, but with sunken faces, mouths marred with glee that shouldn't exist among the living. "You wanna play?" They sang in harmony, their voices melding into a chilling cacophony of innocence lost. "No, no, get away from me," Sarah screamed. She wrenched at her leg, fighting against the invasive roots. It hurt. Every pull sent a shock of pain radiating through her body, but she wouldn't give in. Not yet. Suddenly, a violet flash illuminated the darkness. Directly above the fissure, a figure emerged from the glow. It was Lily, appearing as a specter cast adrift in moonfire. Her face was twisted in terror, eyes wide open but unseeing, locked in the trance of the forest. "Mom!" she gasped, the voice weak and thin, like a wisp of smoke. "Help me!" The breath caught in Sarah's throat, her heart pounding furiously against her ribs. "I'm coming, Lily." With newfound resolve, she pushed against the roots as if she were channeling all her energy into that one forceful motion. As if the very essence of her love for her daughter finally fueled that escape. For a flicker of a moment the grip weakened. She seized the chance, wrenching her leg free just as the darkness churned violently beneath the breaking earth. Sarah stumbled backward, breathless and shaken. But there was no time to savor that victory. The laughter returned, clawing at her sanity, echoing through the trees, mocking her every step. "You'll never leave. You're part of us now." From the crack in the ground, a cloud of dense, black mist poured forth. It twisted around her ankles, pulling her back toward the yawning chasm. The darkness was alive, thrumming with energy, as if it could feel her struggle, relish in it. Lily's form flickered in and out, like a dying star. Sarah lunged forward, furious determination coursing through her veins. "I won't let you take her," she shouted, lungs burning, as she pushed through the oppressive dread heavy in the air. But out of the mist came a voice, thick and chilling. "This is not just a game, Sarah. You cannot save what is already lost." It was a whisper, soft yet powerful, wrapping itself around her entire being. Desperation clawed at her mind. What did it mean? Was Lily truly lost? The gnawing feeling of hopelessness wrapped around her heart, tying heavy knots that threatened to suffocate her. Sarah swallowed hard, forcing her legs onward. "Lily!" she cried, willing her daughter to see her, to break free from whatever darkness was binding her. "Please!" The ground beneath her trembled once more, cracking wider. She couldn't keep this up. It would swallow her whole. But she couldn't lose Lily. "Mom!" The cry ripped through the air, clearer, more urgent, and it echoed with a yearning that pulled at her soul. The figures in the shadows began to close in, their laughter intertwining with Lily's plea, a horrifying chorus that filled the night with agonizing terror. A decision loomed before her. Would she dive into the abyss to save her daughter or run, risking eternal loss? In that moment, the forest quieted, eerily calm compared to the turmoil raging within her. And then she felt it, a flash of warmth, a flicker of hope. Deep within the dread, she sensed a flicker of light beyond the darkness. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way out. But before she could follow that glimmer, a sharp pain pierced her side. A root, rugged and thorned, had wrapped around her waist, tightening as the whispering shadows surged closer. "Join us," they beckoned. Hungry gazes fixated on her as if she were their next meal. The darkness thickened, an impenetrable wall closing in, smothering any final shred of hope. "Help me!" Lily's voice faded into a wail as Sarah was yanked backward, toward the dark mouth of the forest, flailing against roots and shadows. But then the glow intensified. The air shimmered. Was it offering her a lifeline? Or was it simply another trap? The pulsating light brought clarity amid chaos, yet it was a light filled with uncertainty. What truth lay ahead? Would it finally reveal her daughter's fate or plunge her deeper into despair? In the throes of hopelessness, her heart raced with one haunting question. What was falling into the light truly worth? The roots tugged mercilessly, digging deeper into her skin. But Sarah had no time to linger on the pain. The shadows twisted, flickering along with her daughter's fading form. Panic surged through her veins, each throb echoing in her ears as she made her choice a desperate leap toward the searing light. "Lily!" she screamed, pushing against the unseen force with all her might. She ran, stumbling through the darkness as it writhed around her, an alive entity hungry to reclaim what it believed was its. The air crackled as the shadows twisted and contorted, forming grotesque versions of the children that sang before. Their grinning faces pulsed with malice, beckoning Sarah closer to their dark realm. "Mommy, please!" Lily's voice cut through the laughter, taut with fear. It propelled Sarah forward, anchored in the desperation of maternal love. The light grew more intense, brighter than the sun. Yet the shadows clawed at her, desperate to drag her back down into their abyss. Sarah's legs moved of their own accord. She could see the glimmer of hope just beyond the pool of black that quivered beneath her feet. But as she approached, the ground erupted, spilling forth more thick tendrils, sweeping up to bind her legs again. "Join us!" The whisper coalesced into a low, haunting growl, reverberating through her bones. It spoke of eternal playfulness, of joy that was once shared, now turned sinister. She could feel it wrapping around her as if the very forest conspired against her. "Get away!" she yelled, her voice hoarse, lungs torn from the burden of fear. She yanked her arms free, but they were heavy, weighed down by despair and the realization that she couldn't fight forever. The light pulsed, urging her, promising safety, yet fear tightened in her gut. Was it a true refuge or another cunning trap set by the specters? "Mommy!" Lily's voice sweetened with desperation, but still it faded. Sarah's heart twisted painfully. She felt a coldness sweep over her, as if the very essence of hope drained from the atmosphere, leaving only darkness in its wake. Suddenly, the laughter crescendoed, a vicious crescendo that drowned out her thoughts. It bubbled up like a tidal wave, a sound that gripped her heart with icy fingers. The twisted figures moved closer, eyes glimmering with an unholy light. "You can't escape. Not now." In that instant, the fierceness of her love ignited something within her. "No!" she roared. Summoning every ounce of strength, she lunged towards Lily's spectral form again, grasping for her. But then an unexpected clarity pierced the fog of terror. A memory surged, long buried beneath layers of grief, their last fishing trip at Lake Whispering Pines. Laughter, sunlight, warm soft winds brushing against their skin. Each detail flooded back, intertwining with the swirling shadows. She hadn't just lost Lily. She had been lost herself. Before she could chase the memory into the light, a dark, skittering thing lurched from the shadows, a creature woven of nightmares, all jagged teeth and hungry eyes. "You belong to us," it howled, lunging at her, but she swerved. The ground below cracked wide. The fissure opened wider, sucking in fragments of the night sky. She could feel the dark tendrils stretch toward her, hovering like gnarled fingers ready to snatch her away. Panicked thoughts whirled. Would she sacrifice herself to save Lily? The answer seared through her. No, they were not lost yet. With every ounce of courage, she dived towards the glimmer of light, hoping her daughter would somehow break free from the curse binding her. As the darkness pulled at her, Sarah skidded to the edge of the light, arms extended towards Lily. "Come to me," she cried, her own strength wavering just as the shadows began their final swarm. But as she reached the threshold, the light dimmed. Fear and panic surged anew. Had she made a fatal mistake? "Mom!" Lily's voice rose, a wail laced with both longing and despair. Something deep inside the forest stirred, as if her shout had awakened a deeper terror that Sarah's heart pounded. The light flickering weakly as if uncertain. "Lily!" And then reality shattered. The shadows recoiled. A menacing howl echoed through the trees. The light pulsed one last time, and flickered out altogether. Mom! Lily's voice echoed in an unending loop, merging with the darkness that swallowed Sarah whole. The forest grew silent, holding its breath once more. What had become of her daughter? What had she just unleashed? There was no more light, only the echo of her screams crystallizing against the thick internal dark. And somewhere beyond the shadows, a growl rumbled a promise that not everything was finished. What awaited Sarah in the embrace of darkness? Would she surrender, or would she fight back with her last breath? Would Lily's fate be entwined with her own, or had the forest claimed them both? The darkness consumed Sarah, wrapping her in its cold embrace. She felt weightless, as if suspended between reality and a nightmare. The shadows around her seethed, pulsing with a dark energy that hummed with malevolence. She couldn't see, couldn't grasp the familiar. Panic clawed at her throat as her body reacted to pure instinct: fight or flee. What lay ahead? Was it truly a chasm of despair or a doorway to her daughter? Then a laugh, twisted and mocking, pierced the silence. It echoed around her, reverberating off unseen walls. "Welcome back," it crooned, slithering into her ears. Shadows morphed, flickering forms creeping toward her, stretching limbs coated in darkness. She backed away, but each step into the void sent chills dancing down her spine. Lily! The name wrenched itself from her mouth, a desperate prayer swallowed by the growing void. Suddenly, a light flickered somewhere in the distance, a weak, quivering glow that pulled at her with an inexplicable gravity. Was it a mirage? A delusion crafted by whatever imprisoned her? The shadows whirled in a furious affront to the light, shrieking in a cacophony of rage. "Foolish mortal," they hissed, voices layered, sounding like 1,000 whispering lips. "You should know this place is not yours to escape." Sarah forced her legs to move. She stumbled toward the glow, each step seemingly met with resistance, as if the very air thickened around her. The laughter intensified, chasing her down the path of despair. She fought the urge to stop, to turn back. Could she really save Lily from whatever nightmare held them? A sudden gust of wind slammed against her, sending her reeling to the side. She landed hard on the cold ground, grit biting into her palms. The shadows swirled closer, coalescing into ghastly faces, remnants of lost souls lurking in the forest's depths. They reached out, their fingers brushing against her skin like icy tendrils. "Fear is your greatest enemy," one whispered, its mouth splitting into a grin far too wide. "You cannot save her while you tremble." Terror tightened its grip around her heart. Was she trembling? Was her very essence being consumed by the darkness? "No!" she shouted, pushing herself up, driven by a surge of defiance. Her love for Lily blazed, lighting a fire in her resolve. "I won't let you take her." With a howl, the shadows lunged. She forced herself to run, propelled by urgency. The light drew nearer, pulsating like a heartbeat, constant, alive, a sanctuary from the horror that enveloped her. Desperation fueled her as she sprinted, closing the gap with every ounce of will nestled inside her. But the ground quaked, and the air howled with the cries of the forsaken. The darkness lashed out, creating an invisible barrier, one that surged and pushed against her as she neared the light, threatening to pull her back. Then she saw it, a figure that drifted within the light. A silhouette of her daughter, Lily, just beyond reach. Her tiny frame glared against the smothering dark. "Mommy!" The echo of her child's voice intertwined with the gentle glow, sweet yet brimming with unimaginable fear. "Hold on, sweetheart. I'm coming," Sarah screamed. The shadows shrieked in fury, clawing at her, trying to pull her apart piece by piece. She felt them snatch at her hair, catch her ankle. The haunting laughter grew louder, mocking her every step as she lunged toward her daughter. Lily's expression shifted, eyes wide, pleading. "Mommy! Don't!" "Don't what?" Sarah gasped, confused. "Don't come for you?" But it was too late. The shadows surged, a tidal wave of darkness, swallowing the light whole. "Stay back!" Lily's shout turned to terror as she was drawn in, the light flickering violently, waning with each passing second. "Mommy! Help!" The sound was swallowed by an abyss, churning the void into a chaos of screams. Sarah fell to her knees, despair clawing at her sanity. The shadows ebbed and flowed, twisting her daughter's cries into a sinister symphony of horror. "Join us," they sang, a chorus of lost souls beckoning her. Could be so easy. Trembling, Sarah clenched her fists. She felt the weight of a choice pressing down on her. If she let the darkness win, would she become one of them? A raw determination surged within her. Something had to change. She couldn't lose her daughter, couldn't lose herself. "I will not." With newfound strength, she screamed into the void, her voice echoing in defiance. Then, an unexpected surge surged within her as if the forest trembled in response. The shadows recoiled, hesitating, the eerie chaos going still for just a moment. But a new sound pierced the air, a low growl, deep and ominous. It thrummed against the void, and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. Not just a warning. It was a call to something ancient, something hungry. Had she awakened something even darker? The air thickened with terror, shadows swirling above her with renewed rage, and somewhere in that endless abyss lay the whispered question: what was left to fight? The forest was awakening, and Sarah was caught in the trembling heart of its chaos. Would the sacrifices she had to make unravel everything she loved? Fate twisted, and the shadows lunged again, this time with overwhelming force, mighty, unyielding, as if ready to consume all hope. What price would she have to pay to reclaim her daughter? The answer lurked just beyond the veil of darkness. And time was running out. The shadows surged forward, swirling with malicious intent as they closed in on Sarah. The growl, low and rumbling, echoed around her like the promise of a predator on the hunt. She stumbled back, nearly falling once again, her heart racing uncontrollably. A primal fear flooded her senses. She could feel hot breath ghosting against her neck as something unseen lingered just behind her. "Mommy!" The voice was a haunting echo, blending seamlessly with the breath of the forest. The shadows twisted in a grotesque dance, forming distorted images of her daughter, Lily, grinning with malevolence. Despair filled Sarah, an icy grip tightening around her throat. "You don't want to lose her. Get away," Sarah yelled, her voice hoarse and desperate. She thought of Lily, her sweet face and the innocent laughter that had filled their home. The darkness seemed to absorb her cries, feeding off her terror, reveling in the chaos swirling inside her mind. Then, like a spark in the night, anger ignited within her. Each growl, each whisper was a reminder that she wouldn't surrender. Steeling her resolve, she took a breath, tasting the bitter chill of fear beneath the courage that flared up. The glow of her daughter shimmered before her, flickering like a candle, barely holding on against the encroaching shadows. With her heart pounding fiercely, Sarah thrust forward, reaching toward the light. Instinct kicked in, pushing her to move despite the agony that clawed at her spirit. She could almost feel Lily's tiny fingers brushing against her own, urging her on. "Mommy, please." Lily's voice trembled, twisting Sarah's insides. In that moment, it was no longer just about her. The shadows were fighting for more than just her. They hungered for Lily's light. The shadows writhed and screamed, morphing into terrible faces that haunted her nightmares. "Come to us. Embrace the pain. Only then will you find peace." Their voices blended together like a ghastly choir, ripping at her sanity. Yet Sarah could feel the energy shift around her. The haunting growl deepened, rising in both fury and desperation, as if something ancient awoke, torn from a slumber. The trees rustled with malevolence, their limbs swaying like skeletal fingers, and the forest shuddered as if anticipating the violence that was soon to unfold. Fear surged through her veins. But then, amidst the chaos, she grasped a fundamental truth. She was Lily's protector. The shadows sought to dim that light, but she wouldn't let them. With each pounding heartbeat, she fought the darkness swirling around her. Feeling something she hadn't realized, she possessed an unyielding promise to her child. "Leave her alone," Sarah roared, pushing herself forward despite the crawling dread that threatened to pull her back. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from her, a vibrant defiance against the dark. The shadows recoiled, hisses cutting through the air like shards of ice. But just as quickly, a darkness deeper than night surged forward, fierce and all-consuming. It crashed over her, smothering the light in a flood of despair. Images flashed before her eyes, places she had never seen, faces twisted in agony, lost souls forever trapped in the dreadful grasp of the forest. Her knees buckled, the weight of her resolve slipping as she gasped for breath. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was now a distant whisper, fading into an abyss of shadows. The growling lost its rhythm, replaced by a sinister silence. Panic seized Sarah's heart again as the last glimmers of hope dimmed. "Do you see now?" The shadows cooed, their voices a crescendo of wickedness. "You're too late fighting against the overwhelming sadness." She clawed her way back to the surface of her desperation. The fear launched another onslaught, wrapping around her like a vice. "No, you can't take her." With a fierce determination, Sarah drew from the love that swelled within her. It felt as if a dam had broken. Everything she felt, every moment of joy, pooled into a powerful surge. An ethereal glow pulsed out from her, pushing back against the darkness, illuminating the twisted faces, and howls of discontent surrounding her. For a moment, it was as if she held back the tide of terror. The shadows shuddered, confused by the radiance pouring from her. But the light came with a cost, and Sarah felt her strength draining. Could she harness enough energy to reach Lily? In that split moment, the air shimmered, and she realized something else was shifting. The growl escalated to a thunderous roar. The darkness was fighting back as if angered by her defiance. Cracks formed in the fabric of shadow, revealing the roiling void beneath, threatening to swallow her whole. "Help me," the word was her last tether to consciousness as darkness began to claim her once again. What would she have to sacrifice to truly save Lily? As the shadows lunged, ready to consume her light, Sarah faced an impossible choice. Could she save her daughter, or would she give in to the very darkness that had haunted her dreams? Caught between despair and fierce love, the forest trembled again. Something had awakened deeper than fear. What awaited them in the depths of despair? The moment stretched, a taut wire of breathless tension. Sarah braced herself as shadows lunged, viscous tendrils reaching for her. The air crackled with an electric foreboding, a promise of agony hovering just out of reach. Panic clawed at her throat, but something deeper urged her forward, a fierce love for Lily that flickered like the dying embers of a fire. "Lily!" she screamed, voice breaking, desperation unraveling her resolve. The shadows shivered, momentarily thwarted by her pain-fueled cry. Within the depths of darkness, flickers of light teased her with a hint of hope. The forest groaned in response, a guttural sound that echoed through the trees. Roots writhed underfoot, attempting to grasp her ankles, dragging her toward the wicked maw of night. She could feel them pulling her down, dragging her toward an earth that seemed to hunger for her flesh. "No!" Sarah shouted, wrenching herself free. With each step, she felt the pulse of darkness, the heart of the forest thrumming with malice. "I will not let you take her." The words escaped her lips like a challenge, shaking her core. Suddenly, the shadows ebbed as if probing for weaknesses. They whirled around her, mocking her courage, whispering truths turned twisted. "You think love can protect you?" Their harmony of sinister laughter sent chills racing down her spine, leaving her breathless. "The forest knows pain better than you ever will." And then, the ground shifted beneath her feet, revealing pools of darkness filled with haunting echoes, every scream lost to the forest, captured in time, replaying like a cruel record. Sarah stumbled as her heart clenched. Each echo was a promise, a threat, wrapped in sorrow. If she faltered, Lily would be next. Her mind flickered with memories of laughter, sunshine, and safety, bare feet running through grass, warm hugs after nightmares. Each memory fortified her, igniting her will to fight the encroaching shadows. "Lily, my light!" A wrenching desperation fueled her as she reached outward again, grasping for that flicker she had felt moments before. The shadows recoiled, twisting and writhing. The forest trembled, the trees shuddering in response to her defiance. A brilliant light erupted from within her, a fierce beacon against the encroaching darkness. The shadows hissed, stinging like acid against her skin. She could feel their pain, their rage. But with the light came a gnawing fear. What price would she pay to save her child? Suddenly, a flash of figure emerged from the depths of the forest. It was tall, with gangly limbs shadowed by darkness. But its gaze, those gleaming eyes, pierced through the night. It was monstrous and yet familiar. A silhouette crafted from her worst nightmares. "Sarah," it breathed, each syllable dripping with dread. "You cannot escape. You are bound to this place, tied to its darkness. And so is Lily." The air thickened, shadows closing in like serpents. She cried out, stumbling backward, her heart racing as her pulse thundered in her ears. "No, I will not lose her." But as the creature approached, chaos erupted around her, a whirlwind of shadows, screams, and echoes of approaching doom swirling as one. Tree branches extended like skeletal claws, reaching for her, drawing tighter with every step she took. "Join us, become part of our shadows. Only then will she be safe." Doubt pierced through her defenses. What kind of safety could possibly lie in surrender? But panic surged anew as a desperate thought wormed into her mind. How could she ensure Lily's safety? With a sudden clarity, Sarah realized the shadows were right about one thing. She was bound to them. Every fear, every lingering doubt she harbored, was a thread in the fabric of darkness. Everything the forest had taunted her with, it had drawn from her own heart. "Sarah." Lily's voice cut through the mayhem, sharper than any blade. It was a command, a plea that anchored her. "Mommy, fight. I need you." "Lily," she screamed, a raw defiance that clawed at the encroaching shadows. In that very moment, Sarah stood resolute, igniting the wild blaze of love that surged within. But as she turned back to face the creature, heart racing with uncertain fury, the shadows twisted again, contorting into visions of Lily in torment, trapped within dark tendrils, fading further from reach. She took a breath, drawing strength from the fiery bond of love. In that instant, clarity consumed her. To confront the shadows, she would have to face every fear she'd ever harbored. What sacrifice awaited her at the heart of darkness? Would the battle for her daughter's future cost her everything? The world lurched as the shadows closed in. Could love truly be the key to protecting Lily? Or was it a trick wrapped in despair? With one last piercing scream, she braced for the reckoning. The darkness enveloped Sarah, swirling around her like a living entity, pressing against her with all its force. But within that suffocating cocoon of fear and despair, a raging storm began to build. Fueled by an overpowering instinct to protect her daughter, Sarah drew herself up, summoning every ounce of courage she had left. "I will not let you take her," she screamed into the void, her voice cracking in defiance. She felt the shadows recoil, momentarily stunned by the force of her love. The familiar warmth of her memories flooded her senses, the scent of her daughter's hair, the sound of her laughter echoing in the sun-drenched park. Then she heard it, a faint voice, impossibly delicate, slipped through the shadows. "Mom, help me." It was Lily. The pain in Sarah's heart surged as if a dagger was twisting deeper. "Hold on, baby. I'm coming," she shouted, pushing against the swirling mass around her. The shadows writhed, embarrassed by her defiance, and for the first time, they began to falter. Sarah could feel the darkness attempting to tug at her again, trying to pull her back into a place of doubt and despair. But the love for her daughter burned fiercely in her chest. "No, you will not take me. You will not take Lily." In that moment, she decided to confront her own fears head-on. The memories of all her insecurities, the guilt of not being a perfect mother, the worries about their future, the pain of loss came crashing in waves. But instead of allowing them to drown her, Sarah embraced them. She acknowledged every single doubt and transformed them into power. With each fear faced, a light burst forth from her, starting small but quickly growing into a radiant glow. It filled the void around her, illuminating the shadows as they shrieked in agony, recoiling from the light that thrummed with maternal love. Words of forgotten magic whispered in the air, urging her on. You have the power to reclaim what you love. Lily, Sarah cried again, stronger this time, feeling the very ground beneath her shudder with her voice. Miraculously, the darkness stirred and contorted into forms. Phantom echoes of children who had once wandered into those woods, lost forever, their hollow eyes watching intently. But Sarah shifted her focus, honing in on the flickering light that was her daughter. I'm here, my love. She moved forward, stepping bravely into the pulsating warmth, where shadows flinched away, unable to withstand the blaze of hope she carried. We will break this curse together. The vibrant light enveloped her, wrapping her in safety. Then, through the travel of memory and heart, visions of Lily began to appear, her child's laughter, the warmth of snuggling close on a winter night, the joy of creating and celebrating life. And there, among the shifting shadows, was Lily, a small figure, suspended just beyond reach, hands stretching out, eyes wide with love and fear. Mommy, I'm coming, Sarah screamed, surging forward, willing her body to break free from the last grasp of darkness. With one final shed of fear, she reached out, and their fingertips brushed. In an explosion of light, the darkness fractured around them. It was a sight unlike any Sarah had ever seen, a radiant, living light consuming the malevolent void, breaking apart the shadows of the cursed land. Lily was pulled from the abyss, the two of them glowing brighter than the sun. With a scream that erupted from deep within her soul, Sarah embraced her daughter, the fears and doubts dissipating like mist under the morning light. Mom! Lily cried out, and Sarah felt the warmth of her childish body against her, a beloved reminder of everything worth fighting for. The shadows screamed in fury, consuming themselves in the blinding light that swelled around them. Together, they soared upward through the forest, breaking free of the suffocating darkness as the trees shattered around them. The park, once a haunted memory stained with pain, transformed before their eyes. Sunlight poured through the canopy, illuminating the path toward home, and the lingering shadows were finally swept away, never to harm another soul again. As they broke through into the clearing, the world felt alive again, vibrant and full of possibility. Breathless, they stood together, embracing the warmth of safety, the sun beaming upon their faces, hope renewed. I'll always protect you, Lily, Sarah whispered, feeling a deep-seated peace settle in her heart. Lily smiled, her bright eyes sparkling with innocence, free from the grip of fear. With a lingering glance back at the woods, Sarah knew they had both fought the darkness and won. The forest could take many forms, haunt many dreams, but they would rebuild. United by love, nothing could ever truly claim them. As they turned toward the road leading home, Sarah held Lily tight, feeling the pulse of her childish heart beneath her palm, alive, safe, and filled with infinite potential. Let us go home, she said, her voice steady, the shadows finally silenced behind them. If you enjoyed this gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe now to catch even more exclusive stories just like this one. Smash that like button to help feed the algorithm. Don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this intense conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for our channel. Don't wait even one more second.